5 rare and rather special ewes have been slaughtered on a reserve beside the Christchurch suburb of Northwind. All 5 ewes were pregnant and due to lamb in the next couple of weeks. They were Campbell Island ewes, the descendants of a group of sheep taking to be farmed on the uninhabited subantarctic island 700 km south of Bluff. It's brutally cold there, and these are redoubtable sheep. 35 remain, but 5 of them were slaughtered, as their farmer Daniel Wheeler found when he went to visit them during the weekend.
First thing I noticed that they were all in a small paddock that they weren't supposed to be in, and the gate was shut, which I thought was puzzled me. And as I drove across the paddock they were supposed to be in, I could just make out something white in a wee holding yard there, and I guess straight away knew something was up, and then arrived there to find 5 piles of intestines and the unborn lambs.
Wow, so the ewes were pregnant and they'd been slaughtered.
Due to start lambing in 2 weeks.
And these are really rare. Tell me about Campbell Island ewes. There's only 35 on the planet, is there?
35 adult ewes left, which I own. I've had since 2004. Prior to that, they belonged to AgResearch, who have had them since 1974 when they first came off Campbell Island. So they ran wild on Campbell Island from 1931 to 1974. In 1931, the pastoral lease was abandoned and the farm sheep down there were left to run wild. And the Department of Conservation culled the balance of them out in 74, and they were brought back here. So quite unique in that they lived on a subantarctic island, which is pretty horrific. Yeah. And in fact, I had a message last night from the great-granddaughter of the first tenant of Campbell Island. It was him that took sheep down there the very first time. So that actually made my weekend.
And what did she say?
She just said she'd felt for me and was absolutely mortified, and that her great-grandfather had been the first tenant down there, and really felt for me. It was nice to know that there was a bit of history there that was 6 degrees of separation. Yeah, that's New Zealand for you, isn't it? So these sheep, these ewes, would have been the sort of great-great-great-great-great-granddaughters of the ewes he was farming down on Campbell Island. Down there, yep.
How bizarre.
So yeah.
And you have them, this is an extraordinary thing, because you have them in the Sticks Mill Reserve, which is, I mean, there are houses not far away at all, aren't there?
There's houses viewable. You can look into, people's lounge windows, look over the park, the reserve. It's predator proofed, so it's got a predator fence around it. For a vehicle to get in there, there's 3 padlocks to undo. So it's, it's quite difficult to get into. There's a walking track around the outside edge, so there's people walking there all the time. So quite shocked. I had them there because I thought it was a very safe place to have them, and they do a conservation job. They help keep the grass short for the parks, for the birds, the pukekos, etc.
As well as being quite lovely neighbours. There's something pleasing about sheep in a suburban environment, isn't there?
Yeah. So I feel quite privileged to be a city farmer.
I'm sure your neighbours feel privileged to be adjacent to a city farm. So have you any idea who is responsible for really pointedly horrific action?
No, a couple of small leads. There was reports of a violent incident over the weekend in which involved the person trying to sell some sheep meat. Whether that's related or not, we don't know. But other than that, it's just guesswork and conjecture at the stage, unless someone knows something. There will be someone out there. It's not a job for one person. They couldn't have got them into the small holding yard on their own. It would have required a couple of people. And to carry 5 bodies out, they kept the heads on them, which is very unusual. So they've taken everything except the intestines. They've taken the heart, the lungs, the livers, the kidneys, and the heads, which is quite peculiar.
Daniel Wheeler, who's offering a reward for any information leading to the conviction of those responsible. He thinks people associated with the killers will know they're responsible. People have just turned up with pretty poorly butchered sheep meat out of the blue, and is urging them to contact Christchurch Police.